How's it going, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Trailmakers Creations by ThatDomGuy with me, DomGuy. So this is going to be a lot like the last video, the builds over the last 30 days. See what I've done to keep myself entertained. So we're going to have everything from flying submarines to helicopters to cars like this, which are cars that have no engines and, as you can see, no wheels. These are built out of the curved quarter pieces, and they have a decal on them to give them rims, man, so they look kind of cool. So this was the first design here, this blue and red. This is the road hugger. Everything that I show you here I'll be uploading to the shop, so if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you can go check them out yourself. But again, the majority of this stuff is for giving you ideas, giving you different things to try. So let's jump into the we're in the second one I built, which was the baby shark. That's what this is called. So just using WASD controls, this is what this does. Like, okay, well, that's a pretty slow car. But see, the nice thing with the wheels being made like this is that we have very low friction, and it's consistent friction. Unlike with the wheels, where on different terrain you have different friction on the sand, on the pavement. Here, we have the same friction all the time because it's a part and not a wheel. It doesn't have those physical characteristics applied to it. So, just like this with W, holding W, this doesn't really do much. But if you hold space, we can throw in some extra thrusters because we don't have engines. These are running off servos, and you can see we actually have really good drift capabilities. No problemo. So, by tapping our thrusters like this, you can see we can get fairly tight cornering. And just by holding space, you actually get some decent speed as well. And of course we have our wonderful decals on there. Jump out! Bail! And the baby shark returns to the ocean. Alright, let's check out the next one. So, like I said, this is the ground hugger. This is more Lambo style. This was the first one I built. And you can see it's a little bumpier, a little jankier than the others. And it uses a slightly different method. It's got the thruster there on a servo. So, when you want... that doesn't help. That doesn't help. Get these parts out of here, man. So, it being on a swivel like that gives you that quick ability to let your rear end loose in the car right when you want it to, because again of the lower friction. This uses 3 sets of those pieces in the back for bigger wheels, which is another nice thing about making your own wheels, is that you can make them as big or as small as you want. Well, of this diameter anyways, its circumference. So that was the road hugger. And then my favorite, my personal favorite, this is the bloodslide. And yet another bonus reason for building your own wheels is you can color them and add materials to them. So you can make them whatever color you want. So this one's got some flames on the back, of course, and a mad scientist block. Oh, can't drive around very far down here. So this uses, again, it's really weird how the wheels will work well if you keep your center of gravity really low. But as soon as you try and raise the center of gravity, like building a truck, I tried to build a truck using wheels like this, and the wheels just bounce so much that they destroy themselves. Yet, if I... And it doesn't just work here on the carrier, right? If we're over here on land as well, not necessarily level land all the time. You can see how we have the same control on dirt or concrete. Now, jumps, you want to be a little more careful on. You want to try and maybe take those a little more smoothly. Not necessarily an off-road vehicle, but it actually doesn't work bad for just being solid pieces themselves. So that is just on servos, and then those servos are cranked out. There's some suspension in there to help. And then the thrusters. So there's no engines and no wheels. And you can see like 250 kilometers an hour. Not bad for something with no wheels. Spin backwards, do a little Rockford. No? Oh, stay away from the water's edge. So yeah, that's the no engines, no wheels, no problem. This is not a problem. You can still get around quite fast, and you actually have really good control. So it's actually quite handy to be able to build your own wheels. Alright, let's go back to the carrier and see what else we got for you. Alright, so next we're going to head into the skies with the Rooster. This is a training plane for air-to-air combat. It is armed to be attacked by planes in the air, because if you fly within 50 meters of either side back here, you can see it fights back automatically, so you can just fly the plane. Same thing on this side, and then we have a couple of smaller ones back here that will actually angle back and forth. Once they're activated, they will angle. And we have a belly cannon as well, so we can jump in here, we can hit, I believe it is E. That will start those. You can see in the back there, they're back and forth. Looking for the targets. So if you're flying up behind it, it will shoot you. Hey. And then it's got a belly gun down there. Now the belly gun does something special as well. Let's get into the air here. Landing gear is self-retracting. Now the belly gun is hooked up to an angle sensor. So number 2 pops out the belly gun, which is a combination of a big cannon and some smaller cannons. And it will actually rotate with the angle of the plane. Once we get to a certain angle, it engages and swings sideways so that we can fly by and aim at targets on the ground and do like a circle around them and still be able to shoot our target that we're circling around. And once you straighten out, the cannon will straighten out and fire forward ahead of you and down to the ground. Straight targets on the ground like this. And then you can circle around your targets, and the cannon will automatically turn. So you can fire out the left or right side. So that's good for taking out AA. Number 2 will tuck that up. Left shift will turn that off. I usually keep it out just because as soon as you start angling, it wants to turn to the left or to the right. But that is the Rooster. It's just a big target for air-to-air practice. You can maybe make a mini game out of it by timing to see who can take the Rooster out of the air the quickest with just a couple of basic fighters. Of course, not using too much spam. But yep, just a big winged plane. Be great for taking out ground targets from high altitude. All right, let's take a look at what we got next. This is the Snow Leopard attack helicopter, in case you didn't recognize the configuration. Now what's cool with this, again, we got dual compartments, dual pilot seats. We can jump in the back here. Weapon systems. We have number 1, which will bring out dual sets of cannons on either side, as well as drop our nose cannon. That folds up inside like that, so all of the weapons come out like this. Space, of course, is our propellers, and on this Snow Leopard chopper we have, let's put the weapons away like this. Number 3 will drop what we see hanging off the back here. This is a mortar cannon. We have one on either side, and we can drop that from a low altitude. It will stick to the ground and then begin spinning and launching a cannon, giving us mortar fire for protecting a certain area. And then we can stay in the air while we have weapons on the ground firing as well. So let's have a look how that works. So this is a pretty touchy chopper. As far as controls go, you can see the landing gear folds up like that. So if we wanted to, let's say we want to go drop some mortars over here at the containers to disrupt some enemy fire over here. I guess we can pop our weapons out. We can fire those a little bit. E. engages those, toggles those on. And you can see we got some small cannons, some big cannons. That gets our belly cannon going as well. So, if we want to drop our mortars, we fly down like this. Come down fairly close to the ground. We want to hit number 3. Drop one there. Drop one there. And fly away because they start to fire. So now you can see we have a couple of ground mortars where if you know how they're going to fire once you drop them, you can position them along to take out any enemy forces that are on the ground. Use it to protect a certain area. So that is the snow leopard. We got lots of lights on there as well. Good for at night. Fairly decent control. You can get a little squirrely if your nose drops too far down. And again, our landing gear is automatic. Just land down here. No problemo. See, and here's our mortars on the ground. Spinning away. These are anchors. XOR gate. Keep it spinning. And they'll just constantly keep firing. So that's kind of cool. New weapon system. Alright, let's see what we got next for you. Alright, the next crazy build I got for you here is the blue scarab. Now, I don't know if this is a helicopter or a hovercraft or a VTOL or a jet, but it uses all of that stuff. So you can see it's got 2 legs, 2 landing gear legs. That's all it's standing on right now. It's got the big propellers in the top, man. And let's see what it does. So we'll jump inside. This is like a transport recon support vehicle. So we can hit number 2 and our cargo bay will open up down here. It's not a big cargo bay, but it's a cargo bay. Decent size for something that's flat. Again, you could maybe put a person in there, maybe a vehicle that's maybe 2, 3 maybe blocks high. That's about it. So then we can lift that back up. Nice and aerodynamic lack. It's all skinny lack. And then of course spacebar is our thrust. So we have jets connected to the bottom of our where our helicopter blades are. And you can see there the legs just folded up. Left shift is down. We'll see them legs fold back down. That's for landing. Got suspensions on there. Just like that. So if we go up in the air, going up, then them legs will fold up out of the way, and we can rotate with W and S. We can rotate where our propellers are. So we are staying level. You'll see the wings in the back as well fold down as we move those. Then we just hold spacebar, and the angle of our propellers is what's going to make us crash into that thing. See? It reminds me of old time in Russia. The one time we stole tank from army. It was not a good idea. They chased us for a long time after we stole tank. I think it was 3 days, 4 days. It was a good thing we found underground bunker that had rations. We would have probably starved to death. No, just kidding. Never happened. Don't steal. It's not very good. Alright, so the blue scarab here. Let's get into the air. Again, we just rotate our propellers and away we go. We keep straight forward. That'll take us fairly well straight forward. If you want to gain some altitude, you just tip them up a bit. It'll lift you as you go, as you can see by the smoke trail, the thruster trail. And you can just stop whenever you want. You'll hover. Folding them back a little bit actually kind of gives you a wee bits of air brakes. Left shift will drop you down. If you want to come down, do some landing. Or you want to drop off some troops, certain location, frogman can jump out. You do have some steering while you are still. So that is the blue scarab. Number 2 opens that. Number 1 folds out weapons, couple cannons on either side, and E fires those. So again, support vehicle for troops on the ground. And pretty easy to land simply because of its hovering capabilities. Little sparky. Little sparky. So we bring that like this. We straighten legs. Slow down. Bring this straight up and down. Left shift. Come down. Nice landing. Put away cannons. Bring out folding legs. Come down. Nice landing. Very good. Materials arrived. So that's the blue scarab. And we got some nice decals on there too. Alright, let's see what we got next. Alright, we are in the water, and our next build is called the Green Gull. It's actually a pretty large... Oh, I broke it, man. Look at that. Yeah, that's the only problem with those seats like that, right? Okay, let's rebuild. Oh, did you see that? Secret. So this uses small props, but it uses like 6 of them or 5 of them on either side. And you'd be surprised. The angle of the wings in the middle is straight with the body, but the outside ones are connected to the angle of the props, so we get quite a bit of lift. Even just a small amount of forward movement, and we just pop right out of the water. Water landing gear there automatically. And this is using very little controls. Like I just completely let go of the power right now. It'll come down to the water. It'll probably land itself without wiping out. I don't know if that's good for your cargo, but yeah, as you can see, it's pretty good. It's bulky. It's pretty heavy. So we do have decent control. I can hold space. That's our power. We got some cool paint job on there too. Lots of space inside. Dual pilot seats. On the inside, number 1 opens up the door on this side, which stays level, which happens to be level with the water. So if we come down and land in the water, then the door makes it accessible for other folks. Hey, look at that. Perfect. Beauty. So yeah, those are multiple little propellers all pulled into self-using pistons. So that is the Green Gull. I was just trying to build a big water plane, and it's, again, amazing using the pistons like that and just a bunch of small propellers. You can get quite a bit of power. I decided to make me some prop engines. I've been experimenting with propellers, and you'll see that in a couple of our next builds. Alright, so let's put the Green Gull back in the water. It just wants to stay in the air so bad. It's actually hard to land it. And let's take a look at our next build. So I recently saw somebody in a server, online server, multiplayer server, that had multiple servos stacked like this. And then he had little wings on the end, the little tiny stabilizers. So I was wondering, okay, so do these things amplify themselves if you stack a whole bunch? Does the end one end up spinning like super fast? So I checked it out, and guess what? That's exactly what it does. They actually amplify themselves. So the more you've got stacked, the faster it spins. Now, obviously, the servos aren't the most stable part in the game to begin with when it comes to weight or any kind of extreme physics. So you can stack them more than 4 or 5, but then they start to get pretty wonky unless you stabilize it somehow. I decided to use it here as just some free-floating servos on them as well to hold them in line with the rest of them, but you'll see that they kind of act like suspension in a sense, like big giant spring cables. So this is the tuning fork, and this just uses these propellers that you can see up and down here. A and D for steering, and number 1 is your power. Number 1 just spins those in, and then it turns into a hovercraft because it's got the pads on there, but you can't float because we're not moving. So this thing starts really quick and stops really quick. This was my first experiment with those servos as propellers rather than helicopter engines, for example. So we turn those on. We want to keep our nose down. See the bounce in them? It's almost like suspension. This thing goes pretty good, 270, 280, and you can still steer, turn pretty rapidly without going into the water. It's all I'm doing is just holding W to keep the nose down, and A and D to steer. We're barely nothing touching the water except the rudder, which allows us to steer a lot better with those hover pads. And then just aerodynamics, trying to come up as much of the part. See if we turn those off. It's like instant stop. No drift, no float. On. Off. So that was kind of interesting. Just a super prop. And those props are made up of, again, servos all stacked, and then you'll see that there are servos sideways on them, which allows you to put a tilt or rotation, a pitch on the wings or your blades that are on those servos. So that's where you get your pulling action rather than just the shape of the wings themselves. You can actually put some pitch on them like a helicopter blade and make them as strong or as weak as you want. So that is the tuning fork. That will be available for upload as well. Let's see what else we got for you. So while I was playing in the water, I decided to make myself a little attack sub. Just a small, this thing is called the Killer Frog. You can see it's got two cannons on it there. And they're like the ship cannons. So they don't work underwater. But they do work as soon as they come out of the water. So you can actually dive and then come up into the air. Aha! Fire on a boat. And then you're gone, out of the way. Killer Frog. See? See what I mean? Know what I mean, Vern? Oh, see your boat? Oh, okay, that's... Oh, that could happen too. You could shoot the cannons right when you hit the water. Because those cannons are on toggle, so that when you jump into the water, they turn off. But if you're not aware of the timing, then you could just blow yourself up. Oh. And Trailmakers didn't like that. And then, while we were still in water mode, I decided to make a big swimming dude. So basically like an Iron Man suit of armor, except this one is for in the water. If you're a skilled pilot, you can make him fly as well. So he's made out of wings, and he's got some wings on his back for a little bit of lift in the air, stability as well. And just a basic bot that when you hold space, you... he does a backflip and knocks his head off. He's supposed to be in the water, as you would assume. So let's go to the water. Alright, so once we're in the water, we hold space. And that's what, he takes the swimming position when you hold spacebar, and then it's just WASD steering. He steers actually pretty good in the water. You can rotate him, bring him up to the surface, so he swims like this. But you'll notice his hands be cannons. Left shift, fire some cannons. Oh yeah. Go hunting some ships. He's like a frogman. And you can even, like I said, if you're a good pilot, you can jump yourself way up in the air and do a sneak attack on the bad guys. So yeah, that was kind of fun. Just wanted to try and make a swimming sub that looks like an actual dude, like a frogman. So he was kind of cool. And he kind of flies a wee bit. Might be able to take something like this, put retracting wings on it or something. So he actually turns into like a bit of a jet in the air. That might be pretty cool. So yeah, that was fun. And this is all operated, those jets are all obviously from the space as well. So you just gotta hold down spacebar. When you're not holding spacebar, he just stands there like this. Cannonball! Oh, yeah, no. No cannonball. Alright, so while I was playing in the water, I was decided like, okay, let's try and make like a fast boat. A wee bit different. and then I came up with this. So this is called the Singularity. And once we get going, you'll see why. Again, we just have A and D for steering, and space for power. So it moves pretty good, it steers pretty good when you're just in this mode. And then number 1 is our other control, and that's what brings down our hydrofoils and lets us get up to speed. Now, underneath the front of this, you'll notice once we're up to speed, that front point right there is the only thing that will be touching the water once we're at maximum speed. Once we hit about 450 kilometers an hour, that will be the only thing touching the water. So that is why it's called the Singularity, because it's only one point of contact once it's in go mode. So let's pick a direction. We'll just hold space. Again, this is a straight line like a dragster basically. Then we'll hit number 1. Our hydrofoils will come down. Our fancy, crazy mad scientist block will kick in the back. We'll see we're at 350, 360, almost 400. Now if we watch underneath here, we'll see the whole bottom crest is touching. When we hit about 450, bang. The only thing touching now is that one front point. We're doing 500 kilometers an hour on 1 point. The Singularity. Of course, we try to steer right now. That wouldn't be a smart thing to do. So we have to turn off the hydrofoils and get in the water. Then we can steer. And then turn the hydrofoils back on again when you want to go in a different direction. Get yourself back up to speed. And it automatically tips itself forward at 450. In 3, 2, 1. So yeah, that's the Singularity. That'll be available in the shop as well. Or there's a concept idea build. Try and see if you can get a hydrofoil to balance on 1 point like that. Probably has something to do with the angle of the hydrofoils as well, keeping it level like that too. So, all right. So while we are still in the water, I was trying to make a sub or a helicopter that was the same vehicle. But how do you make a helicopter or a sub that's aerodynamic enough to be in the water without big helicopter blades sticking out? So retractable helicopter blades was the goal, and this is what I came up with. So this is the Crusader. This is my helicopter sub. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but on either side is where the helicopter blades are. And because of using servos rather than helicopter engines for those, you can actually control where they end up when they're sitting still. So you can tuck them in somewhere, like I have, as we can see here on either side. And then we can extend those and turn them on and retract them, and they'll return back to this same position. So this way it gives us the ability to do this. Hit number 2. It'll bring us up to the surface. And then I use E and Q to adjust the pitch on those blades. Q being down, E being up. So we just tap E a couple times, and away we go. Space is our thrust, which again is our source of power underwater as well. But when we're in the air, we have our rockets, our thrusters that can actually engage. So here we are in our flying helicopter sub, and we can hit number 2 to stop the rotation. Number 1 folds them back up, and we drop back into the water and disappear into the dark. Nice camo job on that too, trying to color match the water. If it wasn't for the shadows, we'd be able to disappear. Yeah, no weapons or anything on it. It's got cool design, fairly narrow. But that's another advantage of using these servos for your helicopters rather than helicopter engines, because you can actually return them back to their original position, and then you can do stuff with them, like get rid of them, tuck them in somewhere. There's still kind of big, so you could maybe use small wings, the small wings or the small vertical stabilizers on those rotating servos on the ends where your pitch is, and make them even smaller, so you could tuck them into an even smaller design. But I wanted to try and mix two things that you don't normally see a lot of, to try and make a helicopter that's aerodynamic to be a sub is not something you see very often. Not in Trailmakers anyways. I don't think so in the real world either. I haven't done any research, don't quote me on that, but and that's got almost zero buoyancy. There are some ballast on there where you can empty the tanks, but it actually has almost zero buoyancy, so it's perfect. It just stays where you put it, and that's always a good thing with your sub. You want it to stay where you put it. You don't want your sub to wander off by itself. Crazy submarines. Alright, let's go back to the carrier and take a look at the last build of the video. Alright, so the build we have here, this is the Cloud 9 transport. This is like a private jet. This is called the Cloud 9. As you can see, it's pretty sleek looking. From the front, we got the big happy face. Everything is good. It's all good. Twin pilot seats in front there. Nice, sleek design. The landing gear is automatic and will fold up on its own. Let's jump into the pilot seat here for a moment. And we're going to hit number 1. Oh, look at that. We got a door. It's going to pop open. Now we're going to jump out because it's so well designed. This puts us back outside. Right, we can teleport through walls. Now let's go back into first person view here. Take a look inside. Let's have a look inside here. What we got? We got some tables. We got lots of windows at eye level. That's a good place to put windows. And we got a couple of seats in here. Passenger seats. We got more table space here. And we come back here. Oh, look at that. We got a couple of pillars with skulls. We got this here's a fridge. Now, I don't know if it's a fridge, but I'm going to tell you that it's a fridge. We got more table space. And what we got back here? Oh, we got a private room. We got a bed where if you want to take a nap, have a sleep while you're flying around. I don't know if that's advisable or even doable, but you can do that if you want. Here's the cockpit up here. Can I get up here? No, of course not. They don't want you up there. That's what it's for. Privacy, man. Keep doing your own thing. So these chairs, of course, if you have passengers, let's get in one. If you get in one, and we go back into the first person camera, we can rotate with A and D. So we can be flying and still look out the window, look around inside from the seat. Both seats be rotating. So you can look at that guy and say, hey man, you think we're gonna survive? And he'd say, I don't know, man. Let's ask those guys. Flying the plane. So yeah, both these seats can rotate, so you can actually look out the windows and look around while you're being transported in your private jet, man. That's what it's all about, right? Comfort. Oh yeah. And we're outside. Alright, so that's Cloud 9. Let's get in the pilot seat here. Let's get out of this mode into orbit cam mode. We're gonna close up number 1. Couple sparks there. And just a space bar. We have Q and E as our trim. We're gonna put the trim all the way up. And we're gonna pull back on the stick. Come on, baby. Oh yeah, okay. She is she heavy. She pretty heavy jet. Oh, we got our trim on, so let's put the trim down in the back there just a wee bit. There we go. So we can fly nice and horizontal like. About like that. So now we're just flying in comfort, man. Nice angled wings there. Once we get the landing gear up, everything gets angled like that for stability in the air. And you're off to your destination. With the smiley face and all. So that is the Cloud 9. Personal jet. Private jet. And I lied to you because this is not the final build of the video. Dun dun dun. Yeah, I got one more for you. Because I built this just the other day. And it's really cool. I've been having fun with it. Flying around in a couple of public servers. So any of you watching this video, and you know who you are, that may have been in some of those public servers and seen this thing flying around, asking me, oh, is that the real ThatDomGuy? Yeah, man. No one's pretending to be me, man. Just me. I'm the only one. This is not aquatic, so landing in the water would not be advisable. But we need to be in the water for our next build, so let's just cut right to that. Now this is the final build of this video, and I ain't lying this time. So I'm gonna call this the Sea Nymph, just because I don't have a better name for it, and it's just like a weird, it's just a weird concept build. I was just trying a bunch of different stuff with wings, and this is what came out of it. So you can see it's pretty long. It's a pretty big build, and even if I jump out, it's gonna keep going because it's got altitude sensors that control either the mini jets or the underwater engines, the propellers. So above the waterline, mini jets kick in. Below the water, the propellers kick in. So it's got some flexibility in the body. As you can see, it's got a couple of sets of large wings. Now this is the normal mode when it's doing this all by itself. I'm just doing WASD for steering. Basically plane controls, but in the water, like a sub. And when we hit spacebar, that's when we get the spreading of the wings and the swim fins kick in underneath on the belly. Just to swim, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Right? He's just swimming along. Now you can pull up like this, come up out the water, and fly it, right? And you don't need your wings out to be flying because you actually fly faster when you let go of the space bar and just use WASD to fly like a dragon. So I'm thinking it's like a water nymph, or a giant water nymph. Sailors used to tell tales of giant nymphs coming out the water, crashing down onto the boats. Not sure what they were looking for, but devastation and destruction is what followed. You know, stuff like that. They would tell tales of giant nymphs like this. So you just hit the old space bar. Whoa. That's a pretty big wingspan. He's swimming, swimming. And then you can just tuck him in and dive, dive, dive. Disappear beneath the depths. Yeah, that's a pretty cool sub. Giant water nymph. Water dragon kind of thingy. Good concept build. Alrighty guys, that is all I have for you in this round of builds. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.